There's a place in America where the wind feels heavier than it should, where the air carries a faint coldness, even in the heat of summer. A place where nothing stands. Not a house, not a fence post, not a single forgotten sign with peeling paint. Just open land, flat, silent, and almost watchful. What if I told you that this empty stretch of earth once held an entire town? A town with families, laughter, Sunday music spilling from open windows. A place where children chased fireflies in dusty fields, where shopkeepers swept their doorsteps at sunrise, and where neighbors gossiped on narrow porches during long, humid evenings. A town that vanished, not from a storm, not from disease, not from war, but because someone in power, someone whose name never made it into history books, signed a piece of paper behind a locked oak door, and the town was erased. Not relocated, not rebuilt. Erased. In the years that followed, maps were redrawn, government documents quietly amended, photographs removed from archives, and the people who once lived there were scattered like dust in the wind, each told a different story about why they could never go back. The land became quiet. Too quiet. As if holding on to something, as if afraid to speak. Tonight we're going to walk across that land. We're going to listen, truly listen, to the silence that sits on those empty fields, like a weight. Because sometimes, silence is the loudest evidence of all. Before it disappeared, the place was known as Harlow's Bend, just a small township tucked between two rivers and a railway line. Founded in the late 1800s, the kind of place trains would slow down for, but never fully stop unless the conductor felt kind. Wooden houses with tin roofs, a schoolhouse painted white, a general store that sold everything from flour to fishing hooks, a modest church with a steeple you could see from the riverbanks. For decades, Harlow's Bend survived every hardship thrown at it. Failed crops, droughts, a smallpox scare. Through every struggle, families stayed. They built. They rooted themselves in the soil. Then, one autumn evening in 1919, something shifted. People in nearby towns began talking about strange lights drifting over the river. Not lanterns, not campfires. Lights that moved too quickly, too intelligently to be natural. Boats traveling near the bend reported currents suddenly reversing direction, something impossible for a calm river. Fishermen spoke of finding their nets torn clean through, as if cut by something sharp enough to slice rope into hair-thin strands. But the strangest changes were in the people. Visitors said the folks in Harlow's Bend had become unusually quiet. Not scared, not sick, just reserved. As if they were keeping a secret they hadn't agreed on, but somehow shared. Farmers who once chatted freely now stared blankly toward the tree line when spoken to. Children who once played outside suddenly refused to leave their homes after sunset. Then the animals began to act strangely. Dogs barked at empty corners of rooms. Cows refused to graze near the northern fields. Birds avoided the township entirely, flying around it in large, sweeping arcs. By winter, the stories had grown darker. A traveling salesman passing through claimed he woke up at exactly 3:17 a.m., something pulling him from sleep, only to find his room filled with a faint humming sound, like dozens of voices whispering beneath the floorboards. When he fled the next morning, he looked back and swore he saw the entire town vibrating, just slightly, like a mirage. Another visitor said the townspeople were polite but hollow. They spoke differently. They blinked less. Their smiles never reached their eyes. And then there were the disappearances. First a farmer, then two children. Then an entire family wagon that was last seen riding toward the riverbank but never reached the next town. Authorities blamed the current, or wolves, or outlaws, but no bodies were ever found. The final known photograph of Harlow's Bend was taken in March 1920 by a government surveyor. It shows the general store, the dirt road, and a few figures standing in the sunlight. But if you look closely, too closely, you'll notice the shadows on the buildings fall in one direction, while the shadows beneath the people fall in another. The photograph was archived and never seen again, until it mysteriously surfaced in a private collection in 1973 with the bottom torn off, as if someone had tried to remove something from the image. By the summer of 1920, the government arrived. Officially, they claimed Harlow's Bend needed to be temporarily evacuated due to unstable ground conditions. But residents later said that soldiers escorted them out, quietly, calmly, no shouting, no force. Just men in uniforms wearing expressions that suggested they knew something the townspeople didn't. The residents gathered only what they could carry. Some cried as they watched smoke rise from chimneys for the last time. Others stared at the ground, refusing to look back. One man whispered that something in the soil was breathing. Once the town was empty, a barbed wire fence went up around the entire perimeter. Guards were posted. No one was allowed near it. Not for days. Not for years. 3 months later, the fence was taken down, and Harlow's Bend was gone. Not abandoned. Gone. No houses, no foundations, no rubble, not even burn marks. The earth was smooth, undisturbed, as if nothing had ever been there. The main road that once led into the township dissolved into plain grassland. The riverbank where children used to fish had shifted course entirely, now flowing in a wide, unnatural curve. Even the soil was different. Darker, heavier, more compact. And then, after the disappearance, strange reports continued. Hikers claimed to hear footsteps behind them, only to turn and find empty fields. Campers near the river heard murmuring voices at night, speaking in tones too low to understand. A pair of brothers exploring the northern meadows said they found a single window frame standing upright in the middle of nowhere. No wall, no house, just a window, facing nothing. When they stepped close, both claimed their ears popped violently, like pressure shifting in an airplane. For years, nothing grew on the land. Not corn, not wild grass, not even weeds. The ground remained barren, stubbornly refusing life. Locals began calling it the Hollow Patch. Others called it the Silent Field. But the elders, the ones whose parents had lived in Harlow's Bend, simply called it the place we lost. Some say the town was swallowed by a sinkhole, but there is no geological evidence. Some say the government used the land for secret experiments, but there are no official records. Some whisper that the land itself rejected the people, or that something beneath the soil woke up. But the truth is buried beneath decades of missing paperwork, redacted documents, sealed testimonies, and a landscape that refuses to reveal what really happened. Today, if you walk across the field where Harlow's Bend once stood, you might feel it, a faint vibration under your feet, like a heartbeat buried deep in the earth. You might notice the wind shift suddenly, circling back on itself. You might hear a soft ringing in your ears, and if you listen long enough, you might hear echoes of something that was never truly erased, a distant church bell, a child's laugh, a whispered warning in a voice you don't recognize. History likes to pretend Harlow's Bend never existed, but the land remembers, the soil remembers, and late at night, when the wind moves just right, the Lost Township seems to breathe again. Whatever happened here, whether it was human, natural, or something else entirely, left a scar too perfect, too quiet, too intentional to ignore. Maybe someday the truth will surface. Maybe someday the earth will give back what it took. But until then, Harlow's Bend remains a blank spot on the map, a place erased, a whisper in the wind, a warning from the past, a reminder that not every disappearance is accidental, and not every empty field is truly empty.